smile blooming. "I was sure that thing was in the Handmaiden deck." "It was. I pulled it in the 3rd round." His eyes brightened with amusement. He had such an innocently handsome face, but it belied his strength and passion. Like me, he was fiercely loyal to the pack. I was Fallon, the only daughter in the Keene family. Gabriel, the oldest, was apex of the pack. I was second oldest, and I was followed in age, and alphabet, because my mother had a weird sense of humor, by Eli, Derek, Christopher, and Ben. Adam had once been the baby, but he'd betrayed Gabriel, the family, and the pack. He was no longer a Keene. If anything happened to Gabriel, I was next in line for the crown. That made me the first possible female apex in the history of the North American Central. Technically, Gabriel's son, Connor, was the heir apparent, but he wasn't even a year old yet, and control of the pack couldn't pass to an infant. For now, that made me the runner-up. It also made me the biggest shape-shifting prize in the country. I put the rest of my cards on the table and gathered up my winnings. The tabletop, one of 10 or 15 around us, was etched with time and sticky with decades of beer and whiskey. It took 2 passes to collect the quarters we'd anteed. "And that makes 13, I said, sliding them into my jacket pocket. "I'm pretty sure I've won 9, Jeff said with a smile, pulling the rest of the cards into a tidy deck. "We're still close, nearly evenly matched." He'd meant the cards and us, the game in which we'd both been pawns. My stomach tightened. "I'm sorry," he said, reaching over and putting a hand over mine. He must have sensed my dismay. The contact sent a jolt of magic and emotion through my body, that sense of belonging and familiarity that Jeff Christopher triggered with every touch and heart-rending smile. But he wasn't for me, and that's what it all came down to. I pulled back my hand, glanced at my watch. "No worries, but I should be going." He tried for a smile, but it wasn't convincing. "Are you going to turn into a pumpkin?" "I have to meet someone," I said, and those few words were enough to make the cheer in his eyes fade away. His doubt only lasted a moment, his eyes steeled with determination, and he settled them on me. "Someone?" he asked, but he didn't wait for me to answer. "A potential mate, you mean?" The pack believed every apex needed a companion, a man or woman strong enough to help the apex hold the pack. Since I could one day be that apex, it fell to my family to identify potential mates. A doomsday plan in dating form. Brains and brawn were popular traits, but they weren't the only qualifications. Each family of shapeshifters took a specific animal form. The Keenes were wolves, the same form as the first known shapeshifters, Romulus and Remus, and thus the most prestigious. Wolves were the first animals of the first pack. The shifting was magical, but the form was all about genetics, and that's what it really came down to. Jeff Christopher, brilliant and charming, was a beautiful and powerful animal, sleek fur, wide predatory eyes, heavy paws, long, swishing tail. Jeff was a tiger. Pack protocol, a pack tradition, said shifters who transformed into different animals shouldn't be together. Sure, some people ignored the rules, but those people weren't members of the Apex's family, and they certainly weren't second in line to the throne. I didn't have the luxury of rebellion. Gabe and Jeff had been friends for some time. I'd met him a few months ago. Gabe trusted and respected Jeff, who worked with Chuck Merritt, a former cop who'd been hired by a former mayor to help supernaturals in Chicago. Chuck Merritt's agency was no longer official, but Jeff and his sorcerer colleague, Catcher Bell, still volunteered to solve supernatural dilemmas. Gabe hadn't stopped our friendship or complained about the time we spent together, believing we'd drift apart eventually. And as each season passed, the number of potentials Gabe trotted in front of me increased. Jeff was good people.